Hello everyone. Welcome to a new week, and today I'm just going to go jump straight into the highlights. So let's switch and start. Okay, first one, the leadership challenge. Leaders are not content with things as they are today. They focus on how things should be better in the future. Right, I don't think there's much to say over here. It's pretty clear what it means, so I'm just going to skip. Stolen focus. Children have needs, and it's our job as adults to create an environment that meets those needs. In many cases, in this culture, we aren't meeting those needs. We don't let them play freely, we imprison them in their homes with little to do except interact via screens, and our school system largely deadens and bores them. We feed them food that causes energy crashes, contains drug-like additives that can make them hyper, and doesn't contain the nutrients they need. We expose them to brain-disrupting chemicals in the atmosphere. It's not a flaw in them that causes children to struggle to pay attention. It's a flaw in the world we built for them. Right. This is in the chapter where the author talks about the how children are affected by this by our world's kind of inability to pay attention anymore anyway, and it starts right from childhood. And there are sequence of chapters where I think there are two chapters and sequence of different stories, different studies where the author talks about the food, for example, the nutritional value, the environment that we build. For example, I mean, like the author compares free play compared to today. Where the children are mostly at home in a very safe space. Um, so I think like this is kind of a summary paragraph where the author is just covering different aspects, the different things that's happened, different changes that have happened to a child's environment and how that affects the attention. And it's long enough to contain all the information. So yeah, let's move on. Remote not distant. Stop trying to fix people. Create a culture of learning and growth instead. Right. So this particular section, it's more about like rather than building in isolated, for example, whenever there is an isolated issue about performance, for example, a performance issue of a of a specific employee, rather than dealing with that in isolation, look for systemic causes of failure that led to that moment. And like the one of the things, one of the necessary things that you need to do over there is to create a culture of learning and growth. That's where you start, and then move on to eliminating systemic causes of failure in the system. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it over here. The author gives a lot of different examples, so I encourage you to read the book. It's a good book so far. I'm still in the middle of reading it, but yeah, I think there's not much else to say over here. So we'll move on. 7.5 lessons about the brain. As neurons change conversation partners, a single neuron can take on different roles. For example, your ability to see is so intimately tied to an area of the brain called the occipital cortex that the area is routinely called the visual cortex. However, its neurons routinely carry information about hearing and touch. This is one of the other examples in the book where the author is talking about the plasticity of the brain, and how it is not the best idea. It's not the best metaphor to kind of to to compartmentalize the brain into different areas and say this is okay, this is visual cortex, this is the region responsible for hearing. It is not as simple as that. Yes, there are regions which predominantly take over one task, but again, like for example, this example, the neurons in visual cortex routinely carry information about hearing and touch. So it is not as simple as okay, dividing the brain into different areas, and that particular area is responsible for only that thing and it cannot do anything else. It doesn't work quite that way. The brain is much more complex than that. We'll move on. Get it done. After completing the study, as everyone approached the sign out desk, they faced a choice between two pens to sign their name, a regular pen and a laser pen identical to the one half of them had. And a laser pen identical to the one half of them had tested before. Those who had tested the laser pointing function did not select the laser pen when signing the name. They instead chose the regular pen. In contrast, those who didn't test the laser function were equally likely to choose the laser pen as the regular pen. They made the selection at random. This study explains why multi-purpose items often end up serving no purpose at all. We'd rather a pen just be a pen. This is a description of a study carried out, which basically tried to determine how likely are we to use things which are multi-purpose in nature. For example, a laser pen, which contains a laser pointer and a pen, of course. So the study, it kind of showed that once we have an idea that this particular item can carry two purposes at one time, our attraction kind of diminishes towards that object. So there are many other examples, over here in this particular chapter. And I mean, as you can see from this highlight, it's a little difficult book to read, but it's worth it. It's the studies here are rich with all of this information. And yeah, I mean, if you're interested in this kind of behavioral science, do read this. It's not like I said, it's a little difficult to reach, but I mean, of course, it collects all of this information about different studies about motivation, so it is very useful. It's in one place to read about all of these things. So we'll move on. The earned life. We invest enormous resources of time and energy to find purpose and meaning in our lives, to be recognized for our achievement, to maintain our relationships, to be engaged in whatever we do, and to be happy. Our vigilance and striving here are unceasing because our connection to these six factors is fragile, fickle, and fleeting. So, I have just started this book, so I don't really have any reflection to share over here. The six factors over here are purpose, meaning, achievement, and engagement, relationships, and happiness. And this particular highlight, it says that for all of these things, our vigilance is unceasing. We constantly think about these things, because our connection to these six factors is fragile. It doesn't stay. It's fickle and it's fleeting. It does not remain. I mean, you may feel happy right now, but if you just try to analyze it, the happiness disappears. You constantly have to find a purpose in new tasks and meaning in why you're doing them and engagement and everything. So, like I said, I don't really have a reflection on this because I've just started reading this book. So I'll move on. 4,000 weeks. My almost all highlights are quite long today. Pursuing the life projects Pursuing the life projects that matter to you the most will almost always entail not feeling fully in control of your time, immune to the painful assaults of reality, or confident about the future. It means embarking on ventures that might fail, perhaps because you will find you lack sufficient talent. It means risking embarrassment, holding difficult conversations, disappointing others, and getting so deep into relationships that additional suffering, when bad things happen to those you care about, is all but guaranteed. Again, it's another highlight in this recurring theme about how you're not in control of your time anyway. So if you try to hold on to that too strongly, it's not going to work out for you. So this is another example of the specific instance described over here. Uh, I mean, okay, I don't want to read this whole thing again, but yeah, I'll just move on. The earned life again, okay. We are living an earned life when the choices, risks, and effort we make in each moment align with an overarching purpose in our lives, regardless of the eventual outcome. This is here the author is kind of comparing it with regret, and in fact talks about like how he was thinking of naming the book something about like the regret, power of regret or something like that. And then it was he was reflecting that, okay, there is more to this. It's not just it's not regret. There is something behind that as well, and that's the concept of, are we living an earned life? Are we living a life that we feel that we have earned? And that's when they describe this particular highlight, that when choices, risks, and effort we make in each moment align with an overarching purpose in our lives. We'll move on. Range. For knowledge to be flexible, it should be learned under varied conditions, an approach called varied or mixed practice, or to researchers, interleaving. This is a very common thing that came up in another book I read, Mind of Numbers, I think. And yeah, it's just talking about how if you want to pick up something fruitfully, something that makes sense, any complex topic which is quite complicated to learn, and if you want to pick it up in a way where it actually becomes useful in real world scenarios, you have to interleave it with other information or with other learnings. So that idea of specialization, where you go deep into one topic and don't learn about anything else at all for a while, that's again not setting you up for success. It's much better to yeah, if even if you're reading something very specific about a subject, interleave it with something else. And we'll move on. Cues. People say that eyes are the windows to the soul, but I say hands are more telling. Powerful people intuitively know how important their hands are for effective communication. Okay, again, not much to say over here. This is in beginning of a chapter where different hand cues are shown. There are a lot of different cues described in the book. For example, like Palmer pose or steeple pose or different things. So yeah, I don't think I can cover each of those here right now, but that's it. I guess that's the last highlight, and this is the recommendation. I'm not going to do this today. I have to rush today, so that's the end for videos. Sorry, the highlights today. I know. I think it felt a little bit rushed to me as well, but yeah, I think I'm just going to call this done for now and have a different strategy tomorrow. Have a good day.